Hello there, Phil Harris here. Today we're talking about the V5, okay? I'm going to try and make this review as quick as possible, as little jargon as possible, just real-world usage of it. Now, before I get into it, I just have to say, I have been brought onto the Alpha Theta testing team recently, so they did send me this to review. I haven't bought it with my own hard-earned cash, like I have everything else you see in front of me. But they said to me, look, we saw your review of the CDJ 3000X. They said, we don't want you to sugarcoat anything. We want you to give us a true review, your actual thoughts. And I was like, cool. So I'm going to give you my actual thoughts. Now, let me just jump straight in and say, I think the biggest mistake they made with this is calling it a V5. They shouldn't have done that, because all everyone does, and even the company themselves say, this is like a pocket-sized V10. What a massive mistake, because all we all instantly do is compare it 100% to the V10 and start pointing out all the things it doesn't have that the V10 has. Whereas actually, having used this for a couple of days now, there's things I really like about it, despite the fact it doesn't have certain things that the V10 has. And there's certain things that it has that the V10 doesn't have, which I really, really like. Now, when they sent it to me and I unboxed it, the first thing I thought was I just spotted all the things that were missing. And instantly, that was like a bummer for me. Exactly what I'm explaining, right? This isn't the V10. Why is it pretending to be? That's the mistake they made with this. They should have just brought this out as its own thing. Because honestly, I kind of, almost weird thing to say, I almost didn't want to like this because I bought the V10 out of my own money. I really like this. I'm just going to tell you, I think it's really, really good. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get this strapped camera to my chest, and we're going to actually do this. We're going to compare what is missing from the V10, because I feel like that is a critical thing we need to do in this review. I'm not going to dwell on it, though. I'm just going to point everything out. I'm not going to point out all the obvious stuff, just the main thing. And then we're going to jump straight back in, and I'm going to tell you everything I really like about it. So let's do that. Okay, chest cam activated, and what we've got here is the V5's sitting right next to the V10. So I've got a 3-ton V10 just sitting on top of a CDJ back there. It's the kind of guy I am. Okay, so first things first, let's just address the elephant in the room. What has this not got that the V10 has? Because that's what we're all doing. Here's the list. Number 1, no crossfader, which is kind of crazy. I'm not a big crossfader user, but I do think it was a bad mistake not including this. I do use it every now and again. I do. And just to remove it just seems like a crazy option. The other thing you got to bear in mind, there's a lot of DJs who use it all the time who just instantly will not buy this product now. So that's the first thing. Having said that, and I am going to say this as a review, it's kind of probably going to be a bit of a muddled review. Having used it, it wasn't a game changer for me. There was enough on this that I enjoyed enough that it wasn't a problem. Okay, so let's just move on. Next big one. On this, there's an isolator. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail, but essentially, as you can see, there's 4-band EQ here. And what this isolator is just an EQ. It's nothing more than that, okay? It's the same as the EQ on this if you put it on isolator mode. It's exactly the same. Now, the beauty of it is if you have multiple lanes or channels doing, if I ever say lanes, I mean channels, okay? If you have multiple channels doing the same thing, then you can kind of EQ across the board. So if you have multiple tracks stacked, you can cut the bass out. The other thing that is really nice about this as well, if you're in a club and you're like, oh, the bass is just too heavy in this club, you can just go in there and just knock a bit of the bass off and continue doing the rest of your mix, knowing that you've kind of affected the room, right? Like, okay, I've put this to where I think the room needs to be. Now I can go back to just focusing on my mixing without worrying about too much bass in the room or whatever. Okay, now that's when I would use that. It's not on here, okay? Not the end of the world. It really isn't. Like, sometimes it's nice to like grab a big knob and do a bass sweep like that, but ultimately if you wanted to do a bass sweep, you could do it like this by knocking it away, or you'd use the filter knob. So again, it's not there. It is a cool feature of the V10. I haven't played in the club yet. I didn't really miss it. So they're the two of the big ones. The next, and for me this is kind of like a colossal one, no beat effects. So we're all used to having that nice big button here. We can kind of bring in those effects as and when we want. It just doesn't have it. It's no beat effects. So anybody who's coming from an entry-level DJ deck, you now have to kind of completely rethink how you add effects to your track, because this only has sends, which I'm going to explain in a bit more detail in a bit. Now, you obviously instantly miss out on some interesting stuff. For example, the thing I like about beat effects sometimes is you can take away the lows and the mids and just have the highs. So I can have echo on just the highs. So I can kind of like bring it in and just add an echo to the hi-hats, right? There's certain things I like. Obviously, there's loads of different ones here. You know, like you've got all of these to choose from, whereas it's got rid of all of them. Like you've now got 3 essentially beat effects. I'm going to talk about how this kind of is a bit of a beat effects section in a moment, but you lose all of these. You lose the ability to choose which section you want to go to. It's just weird not having it. That's a massive one. However, once again, having used this, I actually quite liked it. Okay, now hear me out. Less is more sometimes. I found myself getting more creative because I was more restrictive. I was mixing in ways on this that I wouldn't mix on this, even though you got more functionality on this, because I was going, right, we're so restricted now, what fun stuff could I do here? Whereas with this, it's just completely overwhelming, so you stick to what you know. Right? It's honestly, in my experience, that's true. And I'm going to run you through all the stuff that I really like. One thing I want to point out while these two things are next to each other. We're all used to this little knob here, the level depth, right? So you kind of like, you're used to kind of doing that and bringing it in the amount you want it to. It doesn't work like this on here. You have a fader. That is genius. Like, I can't tell you how that one difference made such a change to my mixing and everything. I don't know, having a volume like a slider like this instead of a knob, once you use it, you go, why isn't that the case on every single mixer I've ever used ever? It's so much more intuitive to use this. And even on this mixer, I know it's only 3 band, but again, like with 2 fingers, I can drop a fader and the effects with one hand, like boom, gone, those 2, or those 2, boom, gone. Whereas with this, to turn off the effects and to drop a channel at the same time, you need 2 hands. There's just something amazing. Like you think about James Hype, right? You can now do that kind of stuff with this without having to do this weird janky action. It's just something I've pointed out. Don't be wrong, I love this thing, but that is almost my favorite thing about this mixer, right? Okay, so that's that. Now, there's one other thing that this can't do that this can, and I'm not going to show you this, I'm just going to explain it. So at the top here, I can select built in as one of the lanes, right? See that it says built in. Now, what that means is when I hit this button here, if I'm taking one of my channels that currently has a song playing on it, I can send that channel through these effects over here, and as you send it in, it's a bit like a dry wet knob. As you send it in, it starts to build this effect. So if there's a reverb over here and I send it, that reverb builds and builds just like it would if you'd use this level knob over here. But the relevance of this is I can send it through here, and then the reverb will play independently on its own channel. What I'm saying there is that this channel here is solely for the purpose of playing the built-in effects. Okay, so get your head around this. We've sent a reverb into its own lane. Now that reverb is in its own lane, I can EQ that reverb differently if I want. I can boost the highs. I can compress that reverb if I want to. And here's a really cool thing. I can hit this button here to add beat effects to the reverb independently to this channel. So if I wanted to, I could now put a trans effect on the reverb and add in like a stutter to the reverb, right? So this is why this thing is kind of like crazy, because you can really start doing a lot of stuff that you just wouldn't dream of doing on another mixer. And you can't do it here. There's all you've got at the top is computer, line, or phono, right? And of course, no beat effects. You can't send beat effects to a channel anyway. And when I first saw this, I instantly thought, that's clever. They've left a lane just for you to do that, just for you to send the effects to. And they haven't done that. So, but here's the reality. You know that all that clever stuff I was talking about, sending the effects to its own lane and then adding effects to the effects? I never do it. I never do it. It's a cool thing. I just don't find myself doing it that much. And it's really relevant for me to say, yes, you can do it, but I don't do it. Okay? Because I think it's true of most of the features of this thing. Now, I want to start talking to you about the things that this has got that this doesn't have, which is really, really relevant. I'm going to start with some smaller stuff first. First things first, there's something called a link queue volume, okay? Now, what is this? So it's not on here at all. When you're on your CDJ, you can go to browse, and as long as you've got the DJ link and they're all connected through Ethernet and all that technical stuff, I can put my finger on this and start sampling in my headphones a bit of this song. In fact, on CDJ 3000X, you can actually, on this mode, put your finger and start sampling a bit of the track while it's playing in your headphone. That is called link, and I can turn up the volume of how loud I want to hear this if I'm previewing it. Something that this has that this mixing desk doesn't have. It's just a small thing. I'm starting small and I'm going to build, okay? Next thing, it's got a new feature called the XPF, a new filter. So I'm going to show you this in a minute, but I'm just going to explain it to you. Low pass filter is the same, cuts the low, low pass filter cuts the highs, high pass filter cuts the lows. Does anybody else get confused between those two? I always do all the time. High pass filter cuts the lows, low pass filter cuts the highs. I think X stands for cross pass filter. Now, let me explain what this does. It keeps the highs and then filters, so it's essentially a low pass filter where we're cutting the highs and leaving just the low frequencies, but it maintains the very high frequencies. So about 14,000 hertz and above you can still hear, and then you cut it down. I'm going to show you that in a moment, but that's essentially what it does. Now, the other thing that this thing has that this thing doesn't, a new crossfader setting called soft. Let me explain what this does. Essentially, what it does is as you begin to bring the filter down, it sounds like it's cutting the highs a bit. So you bring it down like that, and then as you bring it back up, right at the last moment, it brings the highs back in. And it creates this like softness to it as you bring it down and up. It's really nice, it's really pleasing, and I would keep it on that setting all the time. Doesn't happen over here, you don't have that, okay? And the final thing that the V5 has that the V10 doesn't, other than this amazing fader for the effects volume, is two different types of send effects. One that doesn't go to the beat and one that does go to the beat. And the way this works is really nice, okay? So if you're using a reverb doesn't necessarily have to go to a quarter beat or an eighth beat. It's just a reverb. So you can kind of move this knob independently to the time and how long it's going to go on for and the tonality of the reverb. Now watch this. If I put it on ping pong, which is going to have to go to the BPM, you hear a click. Now if I move this, it now locks to the BPM. Okay, so now it will officially be a quarter, a half. Now, another thing to bear in mind, you can still put this in the middle if you want to, but this way you can lock it to the grid, to the BPM. Okay, and the final thing I wanted to point out, which is one of my favorite features, is this button here is echo reverb. So you put it to echo reverb, you can choose quarter notes, half notes for the echo, you can say the size, so that's like how long the sound decays for after you've cut it, and then you've got parameter, and this is the most cool bit. If you put it over to the left, it's just echo. If you put it over to the right, it's just reverb, which means you can start doing really cool stuff. You can start blending from echo over to reverb. This works so well for me as a house DJ. As I'm building, the song's building to a drop, I can maybe put a high pass on there, begin to take away some of the highs. I can bring in the sends, bring this up a little bit, and start going from echo all the way to reverb, bringing up more of the highs like this, and then at the last minute, bang, you just completely cut it. No tail. just straight into the drop. And there was something amazing about going from echo to reverb or reverb to echo. Just sounded so good on house tracks. Okay, enough talking. I'm now going to show you some stuff so you can actually hear it and show you some of the reasons why I really like this and how I've been mixing on it. One last thing I did want to quickly mention, Alpha Theta have got a new technology called Sonic Link where you can wirelessly connect headphones to the DJ decks, and typically if you buy some of their headphones they give you a little transmitter box. The transmitter plugs into the mixer and then you put your headphones on. It's latency free technology, it's really cool, and obviously with this there's a Sonic Link so you can click it and it just directly connects. One thing I do want to make a note of is that if you turn up to the gig with one of these and the DJ who's currently playing has one of these, only one person connect at a time, so you can't do back-to-backs with these headphones. However, it's still cool technology and it's built in. Okay, let's get into it then. So, first things first, I'm just going to play you the obvious stuff, okay? I'm going to take the low pass filter, high pass filter, and the cross pass filter. So, low pass filter sounds like this. High pass filter. Cross pass filter. This is the thing where it keeps the highs and low passes it at the same time. And as you get right to the top, it begins to filter out the highs and the lows. So kind of think of it like a notch filter. It's dipping in the middle. It's keeping the highs, filtering out the lows, and at the last minute, it kind of filters everything out. Have a listen. I did that painfully slowly so you can really hone in and listen to it, and you can reverse it and go back and listen to it again if you want to. So that's that. The next thing that this has is the soft fade, okay? So I'm just going to play all of these to you. Obviously, this is like the hockey stick curve. So in other words, it stays quiet, 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 and in the last like 80%, it kind of ramps up the volume massively. Sounds like this. You notice how it all just came in at the last moment? Have a listen again. Okay, the next one is just linear, so it just comes up as you'd imagine. Okay, that's the one I would typically have it on, and then the final one is soft. The way I would explain this is it's a bit like taking away the highs as you bring it down. So let's just have a listen to it by itself. So if I had to really describe this, this is a bit like having it on the middle setting and then taking away the highs. Sounds like this. That's exactly what it sounds like. Okay, so there you go. That's what that sounds like. And now I want to just show you this, okay? So I'm just going to kind of like just jump in straight with, like, I'll do a mix from one song to the next, and I'll show you kind of like why I really like this. And hopefully I'm going to explain this very well, and hopefully I'm going to demonstrate it in a way that does it justice. So I've completely rethought how I mix, even on the V10 after using this. So what I would typically do is I would actually leave both tracks with sends at about kind of, you know, the 11 o'clock position, or whatever you want to call that, like the 30% position, right? And I keep this fader down low, okay? And then as I'm playing a track, I can add in, like, bring it in and out however I want, like this. And it just feels right. I really can't explain it other than that. It feels right to bring it in with a fader rather than like turning a knob. Just this is so much more intuitive. The final thing this mixer has that the V10 doesn't is this thing called echo reverb. And I just want to take a moment to show you how cool this is. Let's say we're building from the build to the drop of a track. I might bring it in with a little bit of echo and then move it across to reverb and at the last moment cut it. Let me show you exactly what that actually would sound like. Or you can do it the opposite way. You could start with reverb and move it across to the echo. Let's have a listen to that instead. Okay, so finally, I want to talk to you about how I approach mixing completely differently now. The reason why I really love this is that it's so much more intuitive to me. If I was just playing a track, bringing the slider in and out to bring the effects in and out just feels right. Just feels right. It's just better. One finger in and out. It's great. Honestly, it's really good. Okay. Next thing, I want to talk about how I would mix from one song to another. So, one thing I really like about this is I tend to leave the sends on. So at any point, I can bring the effects up or take the effects away, and it'll apply to both lanes. But if I want, I can cut one of the lanes and continue doing it. It's really cool being able to send a different amount of each of these tracks to the effects and then have this just master control of bringing it up and down. Just works really well. So I'm going to explain to you a transition that I would typically do, and then I'm going to demonstrate it to you. So let's stick with echo verb because it's my favorite new effect. What I might do is have parameter over to the left-hand side so it's just on echo, right? And I might be kind of like teasing this effect in and out. And then when I go to beat match this and bring it in, what I might do is have them both on sends and begin to bring this up so there's a bit of a bass kind of echo going on that almost glues the two tracks together because they're both echoing at the same time. Bring it up like this. I'll do my blend up here the way I typically do my blend on a 4-channel mixer. By the way, it's something else I didn't talk about, but once you start using a 4-band EQ for your mixes, it's really addictive. It does lead to a much smoother transition because the way I look at it is what's essentially different on this than a regular, like the V9 is the fact that your lows are separated to lows and lows mids. The way I would look at that is the lows is the bass that you can feel, and the low mids is the bass that you can hear. So it's quite cool being able to separate these out, especially on a big club system. So the way I would typically beat match, I know I'm kind of jumping all over the shop here, but I would cut the mids and lows of the track that I'm bringing in. I beat match it and I begin to bring up the channel for the track that I'm bringing in. As I can, and obviously I would be using the soft fader at this point because I just like it. I think it sounds nice. As I'm bringing it up, I begin to take away some of the highs of the track that's currently playing as the hi-hats of the track that I'm bringing in start to be brought in. Okay, so I take away the highs. So I don't like too many highs sitting on top of each other. At that point, I begin to mix the bass that I can hear. In other words, the low mids. And I just do that in a nice smooth way. Just kind of begin to introduce the bass line of this while taking away the bass line of that so it doesn't clash. Then on phrase, I then swap the lows as I typically would on a V9. I just swap the lows. But with this, it's a little bit more musical, being able to blend the bass lines and then swap that low end thump from the kick. Now, what I would typically do here is I can bring in a bit of that kind of echo like this. And then say at the last minute, I'm like, what I want to do is I want to cut this track, but I want to leave like a nice echo tail. I could leave that send on, but cut the send of the track that I'm bringing in. So this is now a completely dry signal, and this is being sent through this. And I can even bring this up and up and up right to the point where I cut it, because then when I cut it, it gets that post-fader echo. Ka-ka, 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 right? So I can kind of like, and it's clever the way you can do it because I'm mixing with them both having the effects on. And then I take away the effects of this lane here, just leaving the effects on the track that I'm taking away, and then cut it, leaving that nice echo. It's really lovely. And then, for example, let's say, for example, this track was then building to the drop. What I can do, put all the knobs back to where they were, and then I can bring this sends down on the track that's gone, and begin to bring that sends back up on this track here, while I'm bringing up the master volume here. And then as that's building to the drop, I can bring this up higher. I can bring the parameter from echo over to reverb. I can maybe even put a bit of high pass filter on there, so that filters up here, so it's going from echo to reverb while filtering it up. And then at the last moment, cut the filter, cut this. It's just epic. I'm just going to show you. I've done a lot of talking, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about now. So let's go and do that. Let's prepare this for a mix. We're going to say this one's playing over here. That's set up, same BPM. Let's do it. All you got, keep going till you hit the spot. So there you go. It's epic. And that mix probably didn't sound that different, and it's probably not, you know, that unusual sounding, but it's unique. That exact mix I just did then, you couldn't do on any other mixer. And it's cool, and it's awesome, and it's fun to play with. And do you know what? As I said at the beginning of the video, I didn't kind of want to like this, but I think it's really fun. I think it's really cool. I think it's unique, and I like the simplicity of it. Less is more. It's less overwhelming. It's fun to play around with less features. That's the best way I can put it. It's like, let's get really creative with these now. Whereas when you just got this huge thing with millions of different options, I find myself just going to my safe place, my happy place, and going, oh, well, I know these over here, right? Even though I know it all, I just go to the thing that's the most, you know, it's like I just go to the thing that I know best. Whereas on this, there's so few options. I'm now exploring different things that I could do, and I just found it entertaining, and I really enjoyed using it. That's the end of my review. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It's pretty cool. Biggest mistake they made was calling it the V5. They should just call it something new. Ciao.